Good morning, everyone. This is Chair French, and I'm convening the regular business meeting of the Kansas Corporation Commission for this Thursday, April 18th, joined by my colleagues, Commissioner Keene and Commissioner Keither. On today's agenda, we have 5 consent agenda items and 2 noticed items. We will begin with our consent agenda. Commissioners, you've had the opportunity to review all the items on the consent agenda. I will ask at this time whether you have any questions, beginning with Commissioner Keither.
Good morning. No, I don't. Thank you.
And Commissioner Keene.
None for me either. I'd move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, please, or if there's no further discussion, which we don't have, I will call for a vote. All in favor, please vote aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, say no. The consent agenda is approved. We now move to our noticed items. Our first noticed item is in docket number 23 CONS 3345 CPEN, and this is a proposed order on petition for reconsideration. Our presenter for this item is Mr. John Myers. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Chair French. Good morning, Commissioners. The 2-page order before you denies staff's petition for reconsideration. With that, I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, John. Are there any questions on this item, beginning with Commissioner Keither?
No, thank you.
And Commissioner Keene?
No questions for me either. I'd move approval of the order.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the order as described in this docket. Is there any further discussion of that motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please vote aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, say no. The order is approved. Thank you, Mr. Myers. We now move to our second and final notice item. This is in docket number 24 TRAM 675 PEN, and this is a proposed penalty order in that docket. And for this item, our presenter is Mr. Hassan Latif. Good morning, Hassan.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Penalty order before you arises out of a compliance review of Royce Varela, doing business as Varela Trucking, a common carrier which hauls grain, feed, and hay and aggregates operating out of Garden City, Kansas. This investigation was conducted by special investigators Penny Fryback and Erica Pargas. The current investigation is a follow-up to a previous staff investigation conducted in 2021. A penalty order was issued as a result of the previous investigation on March 9th, 2021, that levied $4,500 in fines against Varela Trucking. During the current investigation, special investigators found a number of violations they believe put the motoring public at risk, and as a result, staff requested the carrier's intrastate motor carrier operations be suspended by the Commission until the carrier submitted a corrective action plan remedying the violations found. The Commission issued that order granting the suspension on February 29th, and on March 26th, the Commission affirmed the suspension after a hearing was held at the request of Royce Varela. During the current investigation, special investigators found 119 violations, and the order before you assesses penalties for 20 specific counts, resulting in $21,400 in total penalties. The violations, which I will summarize, include, and I'll go through the violations, so it might take a minute or two. A $500 fine for failing to provide evidence of interstate insurance coverage, a $2,000 enhanced fine for making false entries on maintenance records, a $3,000 enhanced fine for operating a commercial motor vehicle that had been declared out of service prior to the vehicle's out of service defects being repaired, a $650 fine for failing to complete a pre-employment controlled substance test on its drivers prior to having them operate, a $750 fine for failing to provide a driver qualification file for its drivers, $2,000 enhanced fine for failing to keep records of duty status. This was previously penalized in 2021. A $1,500 enhanced fine for failing to provide maintenance records for the vehicles operated. This is also previously penalized. A $1,500 enhanced fine for operating without proof of annual inspections. Again, this was previously penalized in 2021. $600 enhanced fine for failure to pay UCR fees. This was a repeat penalty. A $100 fine for failing to enroll drivers in the random drug and alcohol testing pool. A $250 fine for failing to complete a random drug test within the time required. As a result of this failure, the driver, Royce Varela, is now a prohibited driver in the Federal Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse until he completes return to duty process. A $250 fine for failing to provide drivers with a written copy of the drug and alcohol policy. $100 fine for failing to provide evidence that Royce Varela had completed the supervisor reasonable suspicion training, a $500 fine for failing to conduct pre-employment queries on drivers prior to them operating, a $1,000 enhanced fine for failing to obtain KCC authority to operate prior to conducting intrastate operations. This was previously penalized in 2021. A $1,000 enhanced fine for failing to obtain a fuel tax permit before re-entering Kansas on an interstate trip. This was previously penalized. A $1,000 enhanced fine for failing to obtain proper commercial registration on the commercial motor vehicles operated. This also was previously penalized. A $1,500 fine for hauling loads that exceeded the 85,000 pound statutory limit in Kansas. A $3,000 enhanced fine for failing to retain supporting documents for the loads hauled by the carrier. This was also a repeat penalty, and a $200 fine for failing to prepare a driver vehicle inspection report. That completes the counts that we've alleged in this penalty order. Staff believes the order appropriately assesses penalties against the carrier and recommends approval of the order. I and staff are available to stand for any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Latif. And if you need to take a drink of water before you stand for questions, go ahead. Well, I do appreciate the rundown of all the violations alleged in the penalty order. Let me ask at this time whether there are any questions about the order, and I will begin with Commissioner Keither.
Thank you. Good morning. You know, when we had that hearing, he appeared without benefit of an attorney and was very certain he was not out of compliance in so many things. So is there any sign that he's going to comply at this point in time going forward, or do we have any notice at this point?
He's had the information of what he has to do to get into compliance since they finished the review with him. I did communicate with him as recently as yesterday, explaining again what he needed to do to get into compliance and letting him know that the suspension is still in place and that he's currently a prohibited driver. But we haven't received more information except from what was heard at that hearing so far.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. Thank you.
Commissioner Keen, do you have any questions?
No questions, but I do have a comment as well. Pardon me. I want to commend both of our field investigators, Penny and Erica, for what is obviously a very comprehensive and thorough review of the operator's operations and the operator status, including record keeping. I think the biggest concern that I have here, well, there's a lot here to be concerned about, but one of the biggest concerns that I have here is the repeated nature of many of the penalties, going down this trail repeatedly without evidently much evidence that corrective action has been taken to preclude the repetition of these violations. And the fact that that kind of conduct has called for a recommendation of enhanced penalties and violations, very concerning. Obviously, as you alluded to it, Hassan, and that was a tremendous overview. I appreciate the thoroughness of that overview. These are all public safety issues. This is the motoring public, which is essentially virtually every citizen of the state of Kansas and all of those who traverse through Kansas for whatever reason is at risk here. So again, very concerning about the repeated nature of the violations, very supportive of the thoroughness and comprehensiveness of the staff effort. Having said that, I would move approval of the order.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to approve the order. Is there further discussion? I've got a couple questions before we take a vote. I had similar observations to Commissioner Keither during the hearing that, we appeared to have an operator that I think he thought he was in compliance, and he appeared to think that in good faith. He also expressed that he, truly wanted to make efforts to be in compliance. And so, I will admit when I saw the penalty order come forward with this level of violations, including repeat violations, I guess I was pretty surprised. It looks like the driver and just the dollar figure associated with the penalty it's higher than what we normally see. I assume that is driven mostly by the sheer number of violations and the fact that quite a few of them are repeat violations from a previous inspection. I guess I would just ask staff, whether there is anything else notable that sort of drove the size of the penalty here. Was this a longer inspection period or investigatory period than what we would normally see? Is there anything different about this investigation than what we would do in our standard process? I direct that to anybody that can answer.
I'll take that. There was no difference at all. It simply is exactly what you indicated. It's just the number of intentional repeat violations. We did not do anything different at all.
Okay, that is helpful to me and it helps me to get that on the record. For my understanding. So I think I've asked the only question I really had to ask. So with that, we do still have a motion and a second on the table. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. The order is approved. Thank you, Hassan. Thank you, Mike and Gary, for being here and answering our questions. I believe that takes us to the end of all the matters noticed on today's agenda. If there's nothing further to come before us this morning, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Got a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you, commissioners.
Bye. Thanks.